Welcome to the Programming Lines podcast. We've got a great show today. Justin Folk is with us. He is a movie producer and director. He's worked on incredible documentaries and films like What is a Woman and Am I Racist by the Daily Wire and Matt Walsh. Am I Racist recently debuted in theaters about a month ago, and it's already the top grossing documentary in the last decade. If you have not seen either of these films, What is a Woman or Am I Racist, you absolutely should. They're incredible. Whatever side of the political spectrum that you are on. They expose some of these profiteering individuals that want to take advantage of division in our society, and they do it in a awkward and hilarious way. And so on today's show, we're going to talk largely about Am I Racist, how that movie is doing, some of those awkward moments in the movie, how the crew kept themselves contained, how Matt Walsh was able to hold his composure, and a lot more. So buckle up, let's go.
Let's be clear what's happening in this country. It's Nazism. Republicans are Nazis.
Being a white, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
I'm on the top of the pile. That's me. Am I racist?
Certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. Where are you guys in your anti-racist journeys? We want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument. Would you mind signing it? Never be too careful.
They gonna say you racist. Justin Folk, thanks for joining the Programming Alliance podcast. We are pumped to have you on. We got a lot to talk about today, and I know you've taken some time out of your very busy schedule. I'm sure you've been on a whirlwind tour promoting the Am I Racist movie that debuted about a month ago in theaters. And so today we want to dig into that a bit, but I guess first of all, how are you doing?
It's been good. It is a lot, but it's been fun and exciting. Ultimately, you go out and you spend a year and a half making a movie like this, and you don't know how it's going to be received by people. And so this is the exciting time to go out there and talk to people that have seen the film and are reacting to the film. So it's actually a very rewarding time when it comes to the life of a filmmaker.
I'm sure.
And just trying to enjoy it as much as possible. It's just a great time to connect and meet so many different people around the country. So that part has been just wonderful, actually. So amazing.
And how is the film performing?
Film's doing great. We just passed Super Size Me in terms of documentaries for all-time gross, which to me is pretty meaningful because I just remember Super Size Me as a very impactful doc that really, was a kind of a cultural moment. And so to think that we have surpassed them in the box office is quite an achievement. And I think we're the top grossing documentary of this decade. So it's doing very well at the box office. I think it still has room to go. But even more importantly, I'm mostly happy about the reception the film has got.
Yeah.
It's been well liked and received by many, many people. Ultimately, when you try to make something, you want people to enjoy it. So
sure.
That's been good feedback. I think we have a 97% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
That's incredible. Well, I can say we went to the film, didn't we, boys?
Yeah, it was interesting.
And we had a good time. There's a lot of moments that are so awkward. It's hilarious. And of course, Matt Walsh's stoic, poised perspective is just incredible to watch. And what's even more incredible, in maybe my opinion, is just being able to expose some of these folks for their extortion tactics and division and hating people for profit. And so I think it's just amazing to be able to expose them, and Matt Walsh does a great job of doing that. How you guys captured on film is just incredible. And so we've got a number of more questions around Am I Racist? But before we get into that, you also directed What is a Woman, which is essentially like a household anti-woke term now that has taken the world by storm. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the differences in how you launched What is a Woman, which is also a very incredible film and very popular, that debuted differently versus Am I Racist, which went to the public in theaters, and why the difference?
Well, with What is a Woman, we did that movie and it was for Daily Wire, just like Am I Racist? And Daily Wire has their Daily Wire platform. It's a subscriber platform, and they aim to bring exclusive content to their viewers. And so What is a Woman was made for the platform. Going to theaters is a sort of a daunting task. It costs a lot of money. There's a lot of risk involved. To do so with Am I Racist was sort of a unique opportunity for us to bring something to the public like that. But it's not without its risk. It's not without its challenges. With What Is a Woman, it did what we were hoping it would do on the platform. It brought a lot of people to the Daily Wire platform in the form of subscribers. And then it kind of took on a life of its own after that. It was still performing well a year later, and they released it on Twitter. Of course, there was a big Twitter controversy around that. I think a lot of people got to see the movie at that time. With Am I Racist, I think from the beginning, we were hoping that we could kind of put it outside the bubble to begin with and see what would happen, to see if people would show up in movie theaters. And so we aimed to make a movie that would be very entertaining and something that the general public might see. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, we made movies they're not necessarily political movies per se. They're more cultural. And so you don't have to be a Republican to sort of enjoy the movie. It's not a partisan type thing. These are both films that appeal to common sense, and in both cases, these are films that even liberals have enjoyed watching. Those were definite goals of ours from the beginning to create something that would have a wider appeal than just conservatives. Pretty proud of what we did in terms of creating films that everybody could watch.
Yeah, well, we've enjoyed both of them. In terms of What Is a Woman, it went live on Twitter, but that almost fell through, right? And can you tell a little bit about how that got saved?
That's a really interesting story. Ultimately, this sort of fight over free speech really did culminate with that movie in a very interesting moment there where What Is a Woman, Daily Wire had made a deal with Twitter to release the film on Twitter for, I think, 48 hours and have it available for free on Twitter. Twitter was going to also provide some promotion and make sure that if you logged on Twitter, that you would know that the film is on there to see. Mm-hmm. That Daily Wire is going to pay Twitter to do this. And about a week before the launch, an email comes from Twitter to basically tell the Daily Wire, like, we're not going to do this anymore. And in fact, if you still try to put the movie on the platform, we will essentially shadow ban it. We'll suppress it. They're very blatant in that. And so the Daily Wire was just thoroughly confused because, the movie had been out for a year. So there's no surprises of what's in the movie. And so they didn't know what was behind it. Why was this being suppressed? And so they asked Twitter for a reason. They basically said that they can't show it on Twitter because it's hateful speech.
Sure.
And it involves things like misgendering people. But of course, we have a story. We tell the story of this Canadian father in our movie, in What Is a Woman, that has a daughter that decided to transition and all that goes on. And so he still, in the movie, refers to his daughter as his daughter. And that's what they consider to be misgendering. And so therefore, it couldn't be on the Twitter platform. Now, you're probably asking, where's Elon Musk in all of this?
Right.
And he was kind of nowhere to be found for that first week or so when they were wondering what was going on. I mean, Elon's a busy guy. He runs several companies.
Yeah.
And Daily Wire is trying to back channel, trying to get to Elon and say, hey, what's going on here? I thought you bought Twitter because you believed in free speech, but your platform is limiting us. Finally, word got back to Elon on the day of the release because people were speaking out. They couldn't believe that this movie was not, allowed to be seen on the platform. Yeah. Elon did intervene. He watched the movie and he liked it and he pinned it to the top of his Twitter feed that says, he said that every parent needs to watch this film. Yeah. So that was great. I mean, that was a great feeling. But for about 24 hours there, we had no idea what was going to happen. Elon did intervene. He actually fired the people that were doing this, that were suppressing the movie. And so it sort of had that Streisand effect. When they try to suppress something, they bring more attention to it. And so that's essentially what happened with the Twitter thing. I think the film ended up getting about 170 million views on the Twitter feed. So it definitely did bring a lot of good attention to the film, even though it was at times very, very, we were all very on edge because we didn't know what this meant for the future of free speech in our country. That a kind of like one of the last remaining platforms that conservatives can be on, that it was being suppressed there. So it was a little we were on the edge of our seats there.
I'm sure nerve-wracking too, because you invest so much, not only just personal time and capital into making a film like that, but then to have one of your major modes of visibility to the public get shut down. Wow, that Well, I'm glad Elon stepped in and did what he intended to do with Twitter and free speech and get it out there.
Right.
So
Right.
that is awesome. Well, let's get into Am I Racist? This is the recent film. We've seen it. It was tremendous. We got a number of questions, and we want to get the inside scoop from you as the director of the film. So let's get after it, boys.
All right, so first question is, why didn't Matt Walsh go to the race to dinner as a trans woman?
I honestly say I have not gotten that question yet from anyone. So congratulations, boys. I can tell you're on the cutting edge of the hard-hitting questions here today. I got my hands full, I can tell, with you two. Yeah, no, that's a great question. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. It's very astute for you to bring that up, because we actually thought about that. We did consider that angle, guys, but it wasn't going to work out. And so we had to find another way for Matt to go to that dinner. And of course, you know that he was there as a server instead. A very poor server, by the way.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I was very startled at the end when people were willing to whip themselves. Yeah, I was like, what on earth? I really want to hear what you think about that.
That question coming from a young man's mouth, I appreciate the question for sure. It was an odd moment. And we didn't know, to be honest, if these people would actually take whips and go along with this thing. It was so crazy for people to even consider it. And so, but we had to try it, and we were blown away that people were willing to go along with this. Of course, a couple of people weren't. Thankfully, there was a couple of people in that room that had some common sense. But it just goes to show how far people are willing to go, and to how far they're willing to take this thing. Yeah. And we thought the whole room would walk out when Matt shows up with a box of whips and tells everybody it's time to basically whip themselves. But no, there was plenty of people to reach in there and grab a whip or a paddle, and they were ready to go. So it just shows you how far and how, I guess, bad things have gotten. It's a comedic moment. Obviously, it's very funny, but it points to kind of a darker, disturbing thing that we discovered when it comes to this whole thing.
Similarly, there was that moment in the workshop where he brought Uncle Frank up to the front, and I suspect that you weren't expecting people in the class to start berating Uncle Frank after Matt Walsh did.
Yeah. That's exactly right. We thought the opposite would happen. We thought people would be offended and would walk out of the room because of the way Matt was treating this poor old guy in the wheelchair, his uncle, for something he said 20 years ago. We didn't know that people would go so far down this road of like believing in this stuff and being angry about this stuff, and thinking that really thinking that the way forward is for us to yell at each other and to confront each other over things that we've said in the past 20 years ago. Yeah. But ultimately, that's what they're teaching, right? I mean, we didn't just do that because we wanted to, have a comedic, silly moment. We did it because this is literally what these people are telling us to do. This is what Robin DiAngelo refers to when she talks about white silence. And she basically is making the point that, if we don't confront people in our lives, whether it's a family member or a friend, we are being complicit in racism. And so essentially what they're doing is they're telling you to blow up all your relationships and act like you are the arbiter of what's good and decent and virtuous. And just basically call everybody else into account for their racial sins. Yeah. Let's just say if you're a Christian or you're somebody that believes the way forward is not calling people out incessantly for what you perceive to be as something they did wrong, or if you're a person that believes even in forgiveness. And in this case, it was a silly notion to begin with, that like this guy tells a joke and 20 years later, Matt's going to call him out on it. Mm-hmm. It's a crazy moment in our story, but it does point to something darker. A darker reality that's going on in society. So,
yeah, agreed. Well, it's a good segue into the next question.
You were laughing when some of those parts like that happened. How is it where you guys would keep a straight face, or like not be like laughing when all of these stupid things would happen?
Well, that's a great question. This speaks really to Matt's ability and his skill. He is an ultimate poker player. in these moments. And Matt knows what we're going for. He knows sort of what it is that we need to achieve in any given scene. He's able to drop into that scene and be that character, be that person, and sort of guide the people in the room towards what he's trying to accomplish. And it just really does show his talent of keeping it together. Because I agree with you guys. I don't know if I'd be able to react that way. I will say my entire crew is great at that. They're all total professionals. And so even my camera guys, guys like Anton and Andy, and my sound guy Chris, and my producers Rebecca and Ben and Sean and Kirby, everybody on my team is a total professional. So in those moments, sometimes those people are looking at Matt and they don't get anything from Matt, and so they start looking around the room at everybody else. But everybody else has done a great job of like kind of keeping it together and really not showing any indication or tell whatsoever something might be a little different than what they perceive.
It's incredible that you all can keep poise and a straight face during some of that.
I will say though, just a little inside baseball. There is one moment in the movie where Matt sort of cracks, and it is what the moment we were just talking about. Actually, is the Uncle Frank moment when those people turn and they start yelling and they start piling on and like cussing at Uncle Frank. Yeah. Watch Matt, because he takes his hand and puts it over his mouth and just kind of puts his head down like this. And he's trying to hold it together in that moment. All
right. Was the do the work session supposed to end when it did before the whipping?
These are good questions. Wow, you guys are really getting into the process of the film here, of some of these hard decisions we had to make. So to answer your question, I'll say this. I'll say that Matt really did not want to have these people whip themselves. It wasn't something that he actually wanted to go through with. But he did want to see just about how far he could take it, how far they were willing to go. And so we're thankful, very thankful, that there were a couple people that walked out in that moment, and that effectively put an end to it. I can tell you right now that would not be something that any of us would be comfortable with, including Matt.
Were you also at like every scene, and how did you manage the scenes that Matt was discovered?
Yeah, I was there for all of it. I had a front row seat. I had the best ticket in the house. I got to witness all these interactions take place. Well, we never knew if Matt would get discovered or not. In the case of the workshop that he gets outed, I guess. We figured there was a pretty high probability that he would get recognized. We were okay with that because he was there to learn from these people. They're teaching these crazy ideas. Yeah. We approached them to do this workshop. We paid them, and we did exactly what we were going to do, which is to film them in this workshop.
Sure.
They probably did not assume that Matt Walsh was going to be there.
Yeah.
And so they knew they were being filmed for the documentary. They had signed releases. We were doing the workshop. This was the workshop that they were doing. We didn't change anything. I think we assumed that Matt would probably be recognized because this is a group of the people that are in that circle, a lot of kind of politically active people, very far left people, probably a lot of people that are very opposed to Matt Walsh and his message and some of the things that he's done in the past. But we didn't know for sure. A lot of the film was like that, where we really truly did not know immediately recognized or if somebody would just not recognize him. And in some cases, we got a little bit of both.
Wait, did the film crew stay after he was discovered when they told him to leave?
Matt left when he was asked to leave, yeah. So the rest of us were there to deal with the fallout. So, no one got arrested because nobody actually did anything illegal. These people called the police because they were alarmed that Matt was there, but really there isn't anything that was illegal that happened. They just, I think it's ironic that they called the police because a lot of these people are sort of the defund the police type of people, but yet when they get somebody in the room that they disagree with on the issues, they freak out and want to call the police as if Matt posed any sort of real threat. He obviously didn't. And that part is comical too. If you guys get a chance, there's a police report that was filed. And I recommend that you read the police report. It's actually, it's a fun read because it shows what these people were thinking when they called the police and how upset they were, just simply that Matt Walsh was there, just simply that they were in the room with Matt Walsh. At one point, one of the women, they were so triggered by him being there that they thought they were in like some kind of danger, and they had a chair ready that in case they need to throw it through the window and escape.
Oh wow!
They were preparing themselves for that. So it just goes to show you, and this is kind of a cautionary tale, guys, that like when you are so insulated in your own little world, and you're not confronted with other people's ideas, this is how you get. Yeah. You think everybody else is the enemy, everyone else is evil, and for these people, they thought Matt was the boogeyman, that had come to harm them, when actually Matt was just there to engage with them on the ideas. And but it just shows you, if you get so far into your own little bubble and your own little world, insulated from ideas, this is what happens. This is the type of person you become.
That's wild. We'll have to check out the police report. I'm sure it's entertaining. And this happens too on campuses, whether it's Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro or some of these other personalities that go onto campuses to have dialogue. There's protests about the violence of their presence, right? These people have zero criminal history of like physical violence towards anybody, but like you said, they have these just visceral reactions. It's an interesting time that we live in.
So, like, at what point, what point in all of these in all these people that you interviewed, that they know that they were scammed, basically?
I try not to use the word scammed. We actually did exactly what we told them we were going to do. Now, they may have had some assumptions that we didn't correct. We were there to talk about anti-racism. We acknowledged that they were, in a lot of these cases, the leader or a leader in this movement, an expert, if you will. And so we just said we wanted to talk to them and hear from them about anti-racism and a lot of their ideas. Yeah. And that's exactly what we did. And so, we didn't lie to them. Our whole goal was to hear from them and so that all of America can hear what these people have to say. From there, we just let the chips fall, because we just knew that the ideas that these people are promoting are harmful. Yeah. We know that they're divisive. We know that they are harming our society. And so our whole goal was to let Americans see this for themselves and hear them in their own words. And then Americans can decide if we want to continue to pay these people money for their bad ideas. But we never knew how they were going to react. I guess we could assume that they probably weren't going to be happy to be in a movie with Matt Walsh. But we also felt it was more important that they were in the movie with Matt, so that these ideas could be exposed for what they are. Yeah.
Well, I think it's tremendous. And I couldn't help but wonder with somebody like Robin DiAngelo, if after the scene where she takes money out of her purse and gives it to Ben on the set and then wraps up the interview, probably believing that this was a real interview about anti-racism, which it was, and getting her perspective on it, and having her do these pretty awkward things, obviously.
Yeah.
And then she leaves and goes home. And at what point do you think she realizes this is not going to paint me in the picture that I wanted?
Well, in her case, she left the interview happy. I mean, there was hugs, actually, believe it or not.
Oh my gosh.
And so I think the following day, I believe she did send an email expressing some of her concern about what had happened. She just thought it was weird. And it was weird. Her ideas are weird. And if you take them to their logical conclusions, that's very weird.
Subsequently, Robin, I think Kate, and others that were highlighted in the show have taken down their social media accounts. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, they essentially crawled back into the shadows a little bit. Again, this kind of goes back to the point I was making earlier, where people, they're in their own little bubble, and these people are rarely challenged. People like Robin DiAngelo,
right,
and maybe to a certain degree Kate Slater. They teach this stuff, and they sort of take advantage of people's politeness and the fact that we live in this era which is very racially charged. They pretend to have the answers, and as a result, people don't want to be called a bigot. People don't want to be called a racist, and so they sort of gone along with it. These ideas, which are really racist ideas that they're promoting, are rarely challenged, and so they're not used to, having their ideas challenged. And so, in this case, they simply went away once the film got out there. Once the film was released, and they knew that they were in it, they didn't want to stand up to that scrutiny. I don't know what was going on in their head at the time, but again, they're not normally challenged, and I don't think they like being challenged.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Why did you spend all that money? Because we can see every single time you interviewed a person how much money you spent on that interview.
Well, we felt it was important to spend the money, first of all, to get these people on film, but also it's important for people to know how much these people are charging. That's one of the reasons we spent the money. We didn't. It's a lot of money, but we wanted to spend the money because we knew that if we did, it really highlighted an important part of our story, which is these people are doing it for money. They're doing it for power. They're taking our racial history, which at times has been very difficult, and you could say we have racial wounds in this country, that they're opening up these racial wounds and causing more pain, and they're doing it for the sake of their own benefit, which I think is very, very disturbing and harmful. We knew we were paying them a lot of money, but we felt like for the sake of the story, it was probably the right thing to do. And we are also hoping that after this movie, maybe they're not going to be receiving those payments as much anymore. Maybe people aren't going to be paying them these huge sums of money for these really, really divisive and bad ideas. And so in that sense, we thought it was prudent to pay their fee so that other people won't in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I love music and I like the Do the Work and Am I Racist? But music that was really good. So I was just wondering, how did you get the music for it?
Well, so Bryson Gray was the hip hop artist that we got in touch with to basically perform those two tracks and write the lyrics. He worked with our composer, Mitch Lee, who is an incredible music producer. The two of them got together, and it's amazing what happens when you get a couple of talented people together with a common goal. And so I had an idea what I thought we wanted those tracks to say in terms of message. But then I just handed that over to Bryson, and he wrote the lyrics for this thing, and then Mitch did the music. And it's really amazing what a great collaboration can bring about. And I really, really respect and just admire the talents of Bryson Gray and Mitch Lee, who goes by Uncle Chubbs in the movie. But those guys really came up with something dynamic and very, very cool. And, this is something that maybe conservatives haven't done very well in the past, but it's changing. We have some really good artists on our side, and this is a case of just bringing the right people together to create something special. I always wanted a title track that would be really, really cool for this movie, and those guys really delivered. So I'm glad you guys. Have you guys seen the music videos, by the way?
No, not yet.
No.
Yeah, the music videos are on YouTube. I recommend you check them out. If you Google "Am I Racist?" music video, it should come up. And also "Do the Work" music video. Yeah. So there's two music videos from the movie that are on YouTube, and both tracks are also available on iTunes and other music sources. So you can download them and play them whenever you want.
Yeah, we've got them on our top playlist. They are really well done. It's fun to see conservatives getting some more of these artists together and building really great content, and I think that music's a great example.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. Yeah, I totally give credit to those guys. Incredibly amazing artists. Those are legitimate hip-hop tracks. They are really high quality, and I'm just proud to have them in my film.
Was Matt comfortable with doing a lot of these, plays, basically, in the film?
Not always, no. Matt had to kind of go to good lengths, had to take risks, and had to put himself in these really awkward situations. And in fact, he had to play a character that is kind of the opposite of the way he is in real life and what he believes. One case, in What is a Woman, we traveled to Africa. We go to Kenya.
Yeah.
And we have a conversation with the Maasai tribe of people there. And they're just a wonderful group of people, but they live out on the plains there. There's wild animals, and they live in these huts. Matt has a conversation with them about some of these ideas of gender that are happening in our country. And of course, Matt had to present these ideas, these crazy ideas that have been presented, transgenderism and all these different things. He had to present it to these guys, these tribal leaders,
Right.
and he had to do it as if they were legitimate ideas. And of course, these guys in the tribe, the Maasai tribe, they just basically laughed. They couldn't believe what they were hearing of what people think in America. But for Matt to be able to do that, he had to represent the ideas and sort of pretend that they weren't crazy ideas. And several times he wanted to turn to the guys and be like, trust me, guys, I'm on your side. I think this stuff is crazy too. But that would sort of ruin the moment.
Yes.
And so he had to sort of present these crazy ideas as if they were legitimate ideas and get their reaction. And so it takes a lot of discipline to do that.
I guess he's got to stay in character. Otherwise, the feedback he gets isn't authentic. And so he does an amazing job at that. I don't know how he does it, but obviously he's a master in staying poised under some of these wild circumstances.
Yeah. Well, he's playing the long game. He knows that what we could get out of it was far more important than being uncomfortable in the moment.
Yeah.
And so he's willing to be uncomfortable.
Another question related to this is, we saw the films and everything that was captured in there. Were there other events that you had filmed and captured, or just like extra content that didn't have the same impact, that didn't make the film?
You never bat 1,000. You know, your percentage. Not everything is going to be a total winner. And so in the case of Am I Racist, we probably shot 2.5 films, to be honest with you. There's a lot of content that we did not include. Now, why do we not include that content? Well, there's different reasons. Some of it just simply isn't that compelling. Some of it's just kind of boring or falls flat, or ultimately just doesn't really do what we needed to do in the story. And so, yeah, there's some interviews and some scenes with people that did not make the cut. Ultimately, we have about 90 minutes to tell this story. And so we're going to try to fill that with the most compelling stuff that we could possibly find. There's good content that we have that did not make it into the film, but ultimately, we only have 90 minutes to really get our point across. And so we're going to keep the best stuff. So
Okay. Makes sense.
Now Matt Walsh is like much more known after doing basically 3 movies. Do you have any movies planned? For example, like there's education, corporate greed, climate change, right? Or is there like something else you want to try?
You guys ask the tough questions. No, you pointed out something important, which is that Matt has become very, very famous, and it does create more challenges for us to do what we're doing. But, as we did with Am I Racist, we kind of found a way around that. In the future, we'll see. I don't know. We're talking about some ideas. Those are all good topics that you just pointed out. There are a lot of things that are going on in society that need attention and need us to expose and push back on. I can't say what we're going to do. In fact, I really don't know. So it's not just a matter of me having to keep something secret. We're working on it. And we'll see what we can come up with. One of the things that I hope for is that us making films like this will encourage other people to go out and make films. Being intellectually curious, pushing back on ideas that are bad, promoting good ideas. These are all things that documentary filmmakers, other scripted filmmakers and podcasts, and you name it. We are in a war of ideas. And so we need to bring our best to the war of ideas. We need to battle hard. We need to be smart. We need to be savvy. And there's a role for all of us to play. There's a role for you guys to play in all of this. In fact, you're doing it right now by asking these questions and being part of this podcast. It's important that we engage on these ideas and fight for the right ones.
Yeah, well said. And we're fighting for our own mission here, which is very much related. And so we just couldn't be happier with the work that you all are doing.
Oh, thanks. I mean, it great team effort. Obviously, first credit goes to the Daily Wire for making stuff like this. They're the only ones that would make content like this.
Yeah.
And so it all starts there. And then from there, we have just great people on our team and great collaborators and really talented people that can get together and come up with these ideas. And so I'm lucky to be a part of it. I'm lucky to work with the guys that are not just have integrity, but doing important work and fighting the fight. And so it's a privilege to fight alongside of them. So
Yeah, amazing. Well, with that, why don't we move into a short but amazing section that we have, Justin, called Rapid Fire.
all right, I'm game. Let's do it.
What's your favorite junk food?
Favorite junk food? Corn nuts.
Will you rather be stuck in traffic with Robin DiAngelo or Ibram X. Kennedy?
Robin DiAngelo.
If you had a superpower, what would it be?
It'd be kind of fun to be invisible.
Excluding us, who is your idol?
Excluding you guys?
Yeah.
I don't think I have anybody besides you guys. I think you're it.
What's the coolest invention in your lifetime?
Oh my gosh, wow. In my lifetime, the coolest invention. Anything that's related to food. Actually, the
There we go.
Blackstone. I like cooking on a Blackstone. I like cooking
Okay.
smash burgers. So let's go with the Blackstone. Oh, ducks. Fighting 1,000-pound duck or 1,000 ducks. I'm gonna fight the 1,000-pound duck. I'd rather die with one big quick bite than 1,000 bites.
Okay.
Would you rather be pure vegetarian or pure carnivore for the rest of your life?
Pure carnivore, hands down.
All right.
I almost already am.
Have you ever been stuck in a bathroom stall without toilet paper? It happened to me, like 2 times.
Wow, that's not a good track record, my man. You know, you need to look before you go into that stall. So
Yeah,
I'm going
I
to
know.
say
That's
no
what I'm
because
doing.
I've always looked to see if there's toilet paper in there before I even go in.
Okay, well, that concludes Rapid Fire. Justin, we really appreciate having you on. We congratulate you on the success with What is a Woman? And then more recently, Am I Racist? The film is doing tremendous. We really enjoyed it, and we recommend that our audience gets out and checks out the films. So with that, we wish you, a great day and great luck on the next film.
Thank you, guys. It was so great talking to you. Thank you for the hard-hitting questions. You guys really asked me the hard questions, harder than anybody else. So congratulations for that, and thank you for testing my mental acumen. I really appreciate that.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit that subscribe button, like, share. Until next time.